right, Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well, and we also want to give peace and salutation to the elect, which is the house of David. All right, I wanted to speak today about Jeroboam, because we understand that after Solomon's sin, the kingdom of Israel was split into two kingdoms. You had what would be called the southern kingdom, which was under Solomon's direct son, all right, Rehoboam, okay? And then you had the northern kingdom, which was under Jeroboam, okay? And he was not Solomon's direct son. And the reason that I'm doing this lesson is because I've heard a few times brothers, when they speak about the split, they say Solomon's two sons. Now, Rehoboam was Solomon's son, okay? But Jeroboam wasn't Solomon's son, okay? All right, now here's a map of the split, which was a very, very important time to understand, all right? The split after the sin of King Solomon, okay? It was told to Jeroboam, okay, who was the leader of the northern kingdom, okay, that Solomon's kingdom would be rent, and he took his garment, basically it was a new garment he had, and he tore it in 12 pieces, and he told him that Solomon, okay, his kingdom is going to be rent, and he's going to give it 10 portions of it into his hand, okay, and that basically being the northern kingdom, okay? And as you can see, this is the portion of their land, which is a double portion, going back to the blessing that was given by Jacob, all right, to Joseph, that he would have a double portion of land, okay? So that's that right there. That's, you can see the two kingdoms, okay? Jeroboam did all sorts of wickedness, all right? He pretty much abolished the Levitical priesthood and set up a new so-called religion under bowing to a golden calf. So those Levite priests eventually came back down here, all right, and although Judah was doing wickedness, okay, they were still keeping some of the customs, okay? And what happened was Jeroboam, okay, and Rehoboam, there was all sorts of revolts and wars. So there came a point where Jeroboam, which we're going to get into, okay, which was not Solomon's direct son, all right, he abolished basically the traveling to Jerusalem, okay, to worship the 3 times a year, you know, that they were required, you know, and they set up all sorts of madness, all right. The Lord eventually sent the prophet from Judah to come and curse out Jeroboam, okay, but we'll get into all of that in just a minute. But this is First Kings. You can read about Jeroboam pretty much in First Kings 11, 12, 13, and 14. All right, maybe some of 15 as well. But if you want to read his history, you know, I'll brief it up in summary. But if you want to read about the whole thing, you can start at First Kings maybe 10 and just read through 15, and you should get the bulk of Jeroboam's biography, basically what he did, which was wickedness. First Kings 11 and 26, it says, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat, there you go, the son of Nebat. So Jeroboam is not Solomon's direct son, okay? Jeroboam is the son of Nebat, okay? And these are Ephraimites, okay? These are Ephraimites, all right? Now, it says, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite, all right, of Zerata, Solomon's servant, okay? There you go. Let's look up this word Ephrathite real quick. Aparthia. Aparthia, all right? Aparathia, all right? It says ashiness, fruitfulness, okay? An inhabitant or descendant of Ephraim, okay? So he couldn't have been Solomon's direct son, okay? going down here, it said of Zerada, Solomon's servant, okay, and Nebat was Solomon's servant, okay, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, because remember at the time of Solomon, the kingdoms were together, okay. It says a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king, okay. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the cities of his father of David. All right, now when you go into it, Jeroboam, all right, was one, you know, because Solomon gets the credit, of course, but it was done through, when you read it, Jeroboam, okay, and particular other men. And Milo was basically one of the cities in the kingdom of David, okay, and it was torn, so he rebuilt it. All right, it says, and the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious. So Jeroboam was very industrious. He was very diligent. All right, he got things done. Okay, so it said, and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. Okay, now this goes back pretty much to the blessing. I remember when Reuben slept with his father's concubine, okay, because Reuben was technically the firstborn. He should have been in this lot, but the spirit had, you know, to where Reuben sinned, and the lot fell on Joseph, okay, his sons, which were Ephraim. This is why Ephraim was the head of the northern kingdom, and Manasseh, okay. So going back here, all right, so he made Jeroboam ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. Bam, right there, that was in the spirit. So, and it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out, so he made him ruler. He was like a son unto him, okay, but Jeroboam's biological father was Nebat, okay. So just bringing this information out that brothers can, you know, understand when they bring this out, for the younger brothers who may not have known. So when you keep reading, all right, it says verse 28, and the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon, seeing that the young man was industrious, he made him ruler over all of the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out to Jerusalem, that Ahijah, all right, the Shilonite, found him in the way, and had clad himself with a new garment, all right, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. So this right here is Ahijah, a prophet at the time, all right, giving basically Jeroboam a prophecy, all right, that the kingdom will be rent and taken from Solomon, okay. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said unto Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, all right, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee, all right, but he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and Chemosh, which, you know, the queen of heaven, all right, and Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways. And that was under Solomon, because he got into all of that madness, okay. It says, to do that which was right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as David did his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince in all the days of his life, for David my servant's sake, to whom I choose, because I kept my commandments and statutes, because he kept my commandments and statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and I will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that David my servant have a light away before me in Jerusalem, the city in which I have chosen to put my name there. All right. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all thy soul desired, and thou shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt not hearken unto all that I commanded thee, and will walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, and to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. Okay. And I will afflict the seed of David, but not forever. All right. It says, Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. All right. Which in the Hebrew is Jeroboam. Okay. And Jeroboam arose and fled to Egypt. So when Solomon got whiff that the prophecy went out that Jeroboam was gonna, the kingdom was gonna be rent and taken from him, he sought to kill, all right, Jeroboam. Now, as you can see here, he told him that he was gonna have a sure house. The prophet Ahijah told him that you were gonna have a sure house, all right? And Jeroboam didn't trust in those words, all right, because he eventually, right here, all right, in 1 Kings 12:25, then Jeroboam built in Shechem and Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out thence, but built Pulim. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. All right. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again to their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, the king of Judah. So he got simple, man. He basically abolished the northern kingdom from returning, all right, to Jerusalem the 3 times a year, all right, to worship and offer sacrifice. And he said if they went, his program will be shut down. All right. It says, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, is it too much for you to go up to Jerusalem? Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. See, this is what he did. Okay. And after this, the kingdom of Israel was pretty much done. We haven't been one, after this rebellion and split. All right. It says, and he set one in Bethel, and put one he put in Dan, and this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before one, even unto Dan. All right. And he made a house of high places, and made priests of the lowest people, which were not the sons of Levi. Okay. This is what he did. He kicked the Levites out. Okay. Which they returned to Judah. Okay. And he set up some of the lowest people as priests, man. Just a wicked nigga. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah, and he offered up upon the altar. So he in Bethel, sacrificing unto calves that he had made, and he had placed in Bethel the priest, all right, of the high places which he had made. All right. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel on the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he have devised in his own heart, and have ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. And he offered up on the altar and burnt incense. There you go. He did wickedness. Okay. He offered up sacrifices unto other gods. Okay. So that was his sin. Okay. And because of that, a prophet from Judah was sent to basically curse him out. All right. And tell him that you're going off, you're doing wickedness, because they saw that he wasn't allowing the northern kingdom to come up and offer sacrifice for the high holy days. All right. So this is 1 Kings 13:1. It says, and behold, there came a man of God out of Judah by the word of the Lord unto Bethel, and Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. So this is out openly. All right. This prophet is coming and openly rebuking him, man. Okay. And he cried against the altar in the word of the Lord, and said, O altar, thus saith Yahweh, behold, a child should be born into the house of David, Josiah, because he's basically prophesying that one day there's going to, be a prophet that's going to, decimate these altars, man. Okay, it says, "Behold, a child shall be born unto unto the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priest of the high places and burn incense in the temple, and men's bones shall be burnt upon thee." All right, because basically he digged up the bones of those particular priests and had them burnt. All right, it says, "And he gave a sign." All right, by the same day, "This is the sign which the Lord hath spoke. Behold, the altar shall be rent, and the ashes upon it shall be poured out. And it came to pass that when King Jeroboam heard the saying of the man of God, which had cried against the altar in Bethel, that he put forth his hand from the altar, saying, Lay hold on him." So he ordered him to be put and locked up. "And the hand which he put forth against him dried up, it stopped working, so that he could not pull it in again to him." The altar was also was rent, all right, showing him that the words of the Lord was true. Okay, the altar was also rent. Okay, and the ashes poured out from the altar according to the sign which the man of God have given by the word of God. All right. So after that, he pretty much, prayed. He had this particular prophet, all right, released, and he prayed to him to take it away from him, put his arm back in in order, and his arm went back in order. And then later on down the line, his pretty much death, came as you continue reading in these chapters. One of his sons, Abijah, he was faithful in the eyes of the Lord. He had integrity, so the Lord allowed him to die in peace. But he got sick. This is Jeroboam's son. He got sick, so Jeroboam had his wife, disguise herself and go and ask the prophet at that time, Ahijah, which we read about earlier, who told Jeroboam that he was going to get the kingdom if he remained faithful, and his kingdom will be stable. But Jeroboam got wicked, and he didn't trust. He was basically like, "I'll get killed. If we go up to Jerusalem, they'll kill us," because there had been wars. But the Lord promised him that his kingdom would be stable, but he didn't have faith. All right, looking at the circumstance, and therefore he created his own way out. He went up another way, and it caused his destruction. So as his wife goes and asks Ahijah, who at the time was older, to seek why is his son so sick, basically Ahijah knew exactly who she was. I think he was going blind or something, but he knew exactly who she was. The spirit was on him, and he basically told her, look, your husband's and his sons are all going to die unhonorable deaths. They're all going to be put to death. I think the last one of them was put to death by a particular guy who just named himself king out of nowhere. He just named himself king and had one of Jeroboam's sons put to death. But he prophesied that they would all die, unhonorable deaths, save his son, who she came to entreat and to ask about, because he was sick, and that's Abijah. So pretty much that's how Jeroboam, his legacy fell. His sons all died terrible deaths, and this is what happens when you rebel against Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. But I just wanted to go through that history real quick of Jeroboam, not only to prove, that he was not the direct son of Solomon, but also to go into how, that split, after Solomon was very, very detrimental. And that once again, that spirit is at the forefront of the story of Israel. You had Adam, the sin of Adam. You had Abraham, Isaac, then you had Jacob. All right, out of Isaac came Jacob and Esau. All right, those are two things. Then you have Solomon. Okay, his sin, all right, led to the split, which led us into these particular captivities that we're in until this day. Okay, once again, that spirit, all right, which is the spirit of Yahushua, is at the forefront, all right, of the stories of the narrative of the Bible. Which, if you ain't spiritual, you ain't gonna catch these things, man. Because him giving us Jacob and Esau, pretty much those two characters are as Isaac, I should say, those two characters are pretty much at the forefront of biblical prophecy. Okay, and we're going to be delivered out of captivity. Our captivity and us being divided as a nation started with the sin of Solomon. Okay, the condition of the world today, you know, started with the sin of Adam. So, all right, the Spirit, Yahushua, is at the forefront of everything. But, you know, just wanted to go through some biblical history, you know, and hopefully you brothers were edified, you know. Call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Rachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. Peace and salutation as always to the elect. Shalom.